Don't let me stray. Please guide my way onto the path of my deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, I'm calling your name. Oh, Allah.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of your favorite program, Let's Talk, on your favorite channel, Huda TV. And Huda TV, of course, better be your favorite channel because it is a premier and the pioneer Islamic channel, English-speaking channel in the English-speaking world, inshallah. So please support Huda TV. Log on to our website, www.huda.tv, and generate and donate generously to keep us broadcasting throughout the entire universe, inshallah. You guys, we're talking about an interesting topic that affects not only youth, but adults as well, but definitely is a youth issue, and that is drugs. Of course, drugs are affecting the youth from all over the world, and especially focusing on the youth in Western countries like the USA, Canada, and Europe, the UK, all these countries. So let's speak about that. And in order to speak about that, we bring two young guests from the West. The first guest is a very prestigious young man. We're very pleased to have him. He's a founder of Roadside to Islam, which is a well-known YouTube channel. I'm sure you guys have seen it before. We're very pleased and honored to have Brother Abu Bakr Islam here with us today for the first time on Huda TV. In addition to another special guest, another fine young man who has traveled here to Cairo, Egypt to study the Arabic language. You've seen him on Let's Talk before. Brother Abdul Rahim Al-Hadi. Assalamu alaikum wa both. Thank you for your time, brothers. I certainly appreciate it. And of course, we have our studio audience. Assalamu alaikum, young guys. How you doing? We're talking about drugs, you guys. Let's start off a little bit with the studio audience. Brother, where are you from? What is your name?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Nabil from Egypt.
Yeah. What about drugs, brother? Do you see drugs affecting the community here amongst the youth? And I mean, I include cigarettes as well, actually, as drugs, in my opinion. Do you feel the youth? Do you see the youth here in your community in Cairo are being affected in a negative way?
It's not affecting, just affecting. It's destroying the community. You know, especially cigarettes. You know, especially cigarettes, because everybody consider it a habit, not a drug, not addiction.
Yeah.
So they get used to it. Do have a lot of cigarettes.
It's like bubble gum or something.
Yeah.
Astaghfirullah. Yeah. So yeah, and even when they look up to the musicians and the athletes and the artists in America, they see them taking drugs, and even though they may not take drugs themselves, they think this is a cool thing to do. Yeah. Thank you, brother. I certainly appreciate it. If we can go to Brother Abu Bakr, I certainly appreciate it, brother, you spending your time with us here at Huda TV. Drugs in the UK. You're from London. No. So let's talk about drugs. Let's talk about why people take drugs, why people use drugs, why people sell drugs, and then we can narrow it down from there, inshallah. Go ahead, brother.
In regards to the first question that you asked, why do people take drugs? I personally believe drugs in society is looked at as something cool. And growing up in the society that we grow in, a lot of the young people are attracted to things what appeal to people and they look cool. Right. So a lot of people experiment and take different types of drugs. And like you were saying, mentioning to one of the people on the panel, that when you see music videos, when you see stuff like this, you see people taking drugs and it looks like something that's very appealing. Right. So a lot of young people are attracted to it. Yeah. So then we tend to see that a lot of young people in society start experimenting. Right. And subhanallah, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is the effects and the evil effects of the drugs, but later on in the show we will get to that. Okay. But in regards to taking drugs and whatnot, it's very appealing, it's cheap, it's looked at as something cool, and also it's something, how can I say, rewarding in society. Yeah, the society rewards the youth for doing it in a way because they think it's, oh, now you look cool, now you're popular. Okay. This sort of thing, right? This is very important what you said, because like I said, even myself growing up, when I started taking certain drugs myself, I was taking it because my friends used to take it, and it was something that was normal. We wasn't taking drugs, smoking and whatnot. We looked like we were out of the circle, so it was something that majority of young people do to fit in. Yeah, Corey, I'd venture to say the same thing, what's going on with the youth in the United States, from my personal experiences as well. Brother, do you agree with that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually agree with him 100%. Like he said, that's the case in London. I know, especially in the States too. It's more of I know a lot of youth, they do it as more of a peer pressure thing. Yeah. You know, just to try something new. You know, especially like if you look at music videos and everything, especially rap. You know, a lot of people rap about taking drugs. You know,
and taking drugs, drinking.
Exactly.
And they give you the visual.
Yeah,
video
and then the way the video is looked and perceived, it looks like it's a cool thing. You see this rapper. He has money, he has, the quote-unquote good life, so then a youth person, what they might start doing is they might start taking drugs, not automatically, thinking of the effects it's going to have on them, but they say, you know, okay, this rapper takes it, you know, he has money, he has this, he has cars, he has that, he's doing pretty fine.
Yeah.
You know.
And if in all fairness, the rappers are like this as well, but the rock artists are even worse, actually. I come to find people like, I don't want to say names, okay, but a lot of the rock musicians, before they hit the age of 40, it's almost like they've gone mentally retarded because the massive amount of hard drugs they've taken. And Brother Abu Bakr, Brother Abdurrahim, and you guys, if I could share with you, I'm from San Francisco, California, a little while north of that. It's called Ukiah. They've legalized marijuana. You can grow up to 99 plants legally, and the whole community has become just high and stoned, and it's really a disaster. Although they think they're benefiting from that, so I think that's this is definitely a problem facing the youth everywhere. But Abu Bakr, you mentioned the youth, how they take drugs to be cool, to be in the in crowd, and we all agree that's true. But what about the idea of selling drugs? How does this come about in the mind of the youth? Why would a young person be inspired to sell drugs?
First and foremost, if you look at, for example, when we watch movies, when you see a person like a drug dealer in a movie, he's classed as the so-called bad man. He's classed as the so-called person who's have everything that a young person wants. Now, like I said, when we watch movies, we see the drug dealers that have the most money. And this is very true. In society, people who sell drugs have a lot of money. Now, a lot of young people, they look at it like this. Why am I going to go to school? Why am I going to go and get education to get a standard job where I can make maybe £2,000, £1,500 a month, when I can sell drugs and make that type of money in one day? Right. So a lot of the young people grow up, especially if they're growing up in projects, they see this and they think, why am I going to waste my time pushing myself in this direction when I could just easily start selling drugs and make more money?
And Brother Abu Bakr, what about the women also? Okay, listen, so the man says he sees the women on TV, the models, and what's beautiful in society. They put these women in front of him. Now that kid says, in order for me to get that girl, I have to have a lot of money. And I'm not going to make a lot of money working 9 to 5 and going to college and getting an education. So I'm going to sell drugs now in order to accumulate wealth, to buy a fancy car, to buy fancy clothes, to get that girl. Do you think that's a factor?
Well, we've got to be honest with ourselves, and it goes without saying, when you've got money, women come. And especially if you're in that kind of living, in that kind of society where you're making illegal money and you have a lot of flashy stuff, women will be attracted to you. Yeah. So obviously a lot of young people, as they're growing up and they're seeing maybe older people in their community selling drugs and having such a lavish lifestyle and seeing so much people attracted to them, they also want to live like that. And like what the brother was saying as well, when we see these music videos, we have to understand this is 3-4 minutes packed with so many sceneries. Like, there's so much stuff going on. You got people driving in cars, you got pretty women, you got big houses, etc., all pushed together in just a slot of 3 minutes. And young people, when they see that, they inspire to be like that. Yeah, yeah. So without it goes without saying, basically, when you have money, and especially the money from drugs, women come with that.
Yeah, of course. The society is definitely promoting that. Brother Abdurrahim, how many youth perhaps weren't looking to sell drugs, but because they come from a society which has oppressed them, and they don't feel like they have a fair chance, so they say, look, I'm not going to get that job, I'm not going to get into that university, I'm not going to graduate, society has already put me in a corner, so I'm not going to go the traditional route. I'm going to beat society, and I'm going to get money, so to speak, by doing something illegal, which is selling drugs. How common is that?
It's very common, because selling drugs, it's classified as quick money. Like the brother said, you can go to school, you can get education, you can try to work, the 9 to 5, to try to make, some money. But then when you think about, selling drugs, for example, even if that wasn't even your intention in the first place, because, times is rough, the person may think, times is rough, the economy, it's just not the way it used to be. You may go to school for years and they may not even find a job, if a job's not even guaranteed for you. Whereas you have, drugs right in front of you, you may have a friend that, can, hook you up, quote unquote, with, some drugs to make money, right there on the spot. More money that you will make, than a person who's went to college for 4 years, 10 years and, is going to, who's found a job. Right. So you're looking at it as quick money, like he said, why would I go to school? Why would I waste my time during the day, to make this, to get money legally when, okay, if I can sneak and go ahead and sell drugs, and, make some money on the side, and you're making, 10 times the amount sometimes, that you're making, than you were making a person that, that's went to school, that has a job,
And I asked that question. I had a good Muslim brother. He became Muslim. He changed his life, and he could never find a job. And he said, because before I was Muslim, I had committed some crimes. I made some mistakes. So now I have this felony charge. I can never get a job now. He said I couldn't get a job at McDonald's. So society has put him in a corner now, where if he wasn't like strong on the deen, maybe he would make a bad decision again. But because he doesn't have an outlet, so to speak, I think a lot of the youth, they feel that they don't have an outlet, so they turn to this selling drugs. So let's talk about, perhaps we can move to about the drugs, the evil they pose to our society, Brother Abu Bakr. Let's start with the negative effects, perhaps, of taking drugs. We established why young people take drugs. Or perhaps we can start with, what is their goal? When a young person takes drugs, what do you think their goal is? To please their friends or what?
Well, generally speaking, it depends what kind of drugs you're talking about, but most of the time when you look at, like, for example, marijuana, smoking weed, etc., most of the young people smoke this to fit in, and then after a while, it becomes a bit of an addiction. At the start, you don't really realize what you're getting yourself into. It's just something, a bit of fun. You might go out to a club or whatever, or you're with your friends and you're smoking, but then you realize after smoking it for a few months that you're actually addicted to it. Because I can even use myself, for example, when I used to smoke, there was a stage where you end up buying weed every single day, but it just becomes the norm. Do you understand? Just like you might go to the shop and buy a can of Coke or a drink, just like you spend your money on weed. So what happens with the young person is that at the start it becomes something fun, and then before you know it, you're actually addicted to it.
You didn't know what you got into. That's exactly the point.
That's exactly what.
And brother, where I come from, and I'm sure you would vouch for this as well, they say marijuana, it's not a big deal. It's just a little fun. What's the big... The problem is, I know, I'm 31 years old. I just turned 31, okay? I know the guy that I graduated from high school with, they're also 31, and they're doing the same thing we were doing together when we were 18 because of marijuana, because they kept smoking weed, and it killed their ambition and motivation in life to accomplish any kind of goal. So they say, oh, it's not a hard drug, it's not a bad drug. But would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's what, like I went to high school, graduated from high school, and that's what a lot of friends of mine would say. Marijuana is not that big of a deal. It's not like cigarettes, cigarettes, get you addicted, but no one really dies from marijuana the same way they do from cigarettes. They try to find every excuse, to say, that marijuana is not that bad, But then you see, you always see years down the line when a person's much older, how much they always talk bad about marijuana. They see, the negative effect that they had on their life. But when a person's young, they're not thinking like that. They're thinking about it, there's no harm in it, we're just having a good time, me and my friends are just going to go out and just, just smoke some weed or whatnot, They're not really thinking about the negative effects they could have on them, years down the line.
Of course, and they talk about some negative effects of that are you spend all your money, right? You spend all your time. What about your mental state when you're smoking weed all the time? What do you think, Abu Bakr?
Subhanallah, personally, I know people personally who have been put in the mental homes via smoking weed. And like what the brother was saying, when we were growing up in our society, even I was a person who used to say that smoking weed, there's nothing really to it. Do you understand? It's not something. It's not something serious. It's not nothing as bad as way people make it out to be. But so many people are put in mental homes because of smoking weed. Because 100%, we don't even know what you're smoking. You're smoking something, but you don't know what you're smoking. You understand? And there's so many different types of weed. And subhanAllah, I can remember one time I went to Amsterdam when I was into smoking and whatnot. And I went into a cafe, and subhanAllah, when you go into the cafe, they give you a menu, double-sided, of different types of weed and what it does to you. Now, how can they give you different types of weed and tell you what it does to you? This shows how much of effect that it does to your mind. So many people have been put into mental homes via smoking weed.
And I think also you lose touch with the reality, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you do. You get that high status, and a lot of people don't realize that, when you smoke weed, and you get high, then you're more likely to do things that you wouldn't normally do, which can get you into a lot more trouble.
Right. Like I have a friend, he's like, I got this, I bought this, I have this kind, I guess we should just say it, he'll say, I got a half pound of this or a pound of this, I'm selling this or making. I said, you're 30 years old, you're still living at homes. It made you a loser, and someone's got to tell you to wake you up. Smoking it and selling it, you're not getting anywhere. Let's go back to the studio audience, brothers. What do you think, brothers? Do drugs have a negative effect on your community? Do you see the youth effective in a negative way? Does anybody have any comments to that question? Oh, go ahead, brother.
Okay. Like I said before, it's have a very bad effect on our society. It's destroying the society. I remember some kid was driving a bus, and he was doing drugs, but you never see them turning 25. You see them like 15 doing drugs, but they never reach the state to be 25 years old.
Right.
They die in the...
Right. The hard drugs. They begin using hard drugs, and this is something that's devastating. Brother Abu Bakr, I think the music plays a huge role. We had I recently saw a book titled "The Music Made Me Do It." I think the music plays a huge role with the youth in the United States. What about in the UK?
Yeah, music plays effect on everyone in the whole wide world, and I think it's one of the greatest tools that the shaitan uses that affect the mind of the people. And you know, we can't 100% say everything's because of music, but especially people who are easily led. When you watch music videos and whatnot, it's inspiring. And if your life is pushed in that direction, and these are the kind of things that you want to inspire to do, you're seeing everything that you want in a matter of 3 minutes, and you will push it and do anything you can to live this basic lie.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where the kids in America, you know, they want to smoke the same thing, using the same, you know, blunt wrap and all this, as a musician used to do. And, you know, I still remember myself watching Loon before he became Muslim. I say, man, he was like my hero before I was Muslim. Can you imagine that? I mean, so that's what effect it has on you, on the music videos have on you. So we have to definitely take care about that. So we talked about using drugs, dealing drugs. Let's share some personal stories of people that we know that use drugs and what happened to them in the end. So we can give the young people at home kind of a vision or an idea that, look, it seems, you know, popular and cool, it's something kind of glorious to do now, but in 5-10 years, or perhaps even sooner than that, it's going to lead you to a bad end, most likely. Can you guys share a personal story with us, a friend of yours, or something you knew from your neighborhood?
Well, like I said, there's many stories that you can speak about, like I was saying before, especially when it comes to regards to people being put in mental homes. I've seen many young people in my community being put in mental homes via smoking weed. But subhanAllah, I read one story the other day. It's not personal to me, but I saw it online. One guy was talking about one of his friends who had a very good job. He was working high-paid job, and he got into taking drugs, started smoking weed. I'm not really sure what other drugs he started taking. Right. And his addiction got so bad that where he started borrowing money to start basically buying the weed. So when he used to get paid, he never used to end up with no money. And subhanAllah, this story, it got so bad that after about 2 years of him being addicted, he became homeless.
SubhanAllah.
Do you understand? And his friends, they always used to go to him and used to speak to him and try and give him advice and, you know, change your life. And his words were, "I'm only happy when I smoke weed." And this is just one of the small examples and the evil effects of taking drugs, and the way it plays with your mind and makes you think that this way is the good way of life. Do you understand? And that's why we know in Islam, any intoxicant, anything what plays with the mind is not permissible. Because it takes you away from your natural states and it makes you think about things that are not normal and makes you believe that they are normal.
SubhanAllah, thank you. And anybody who says to me marijuana is not addictive, one second, brother, I'm sorry. Anybody who says marijuana is not an addictive drug, growing up in the States, I remember kids saying, I'm trying to quit smoking. Oh, that's really good. Okay, I'm on day number 4. Oh, that's great. Oh, I slipped up. I got to go back to day number 1. Are you kidding me? If it's not addictive, why would it be hard to quit, right? But I know you have a comment. We're going to take a quick break, and the director told me to take a break, and we'll come back to you. Okay, you guys stay tuned for more Let's Talk.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala.
We're still at the dentist clinic. Dr. Ashraf is our host. Dr. Ashraf, now you have the patient, and we've been talking about the sterilization and the care for the tools, either the disposables and the non-disposables. And one of the very important, most advanced tools for the dentist is the microscope.
And one of these things is very important, that we can take this image and we can freeze it so that my patient can join me and discuss with me the different treatment options that we have.
Being exposed to burn is considered to be a catastrophe, and some people would have the burn at home, some others would be exposed to it in the streets and at work as a factory or other places. And learning how to deal with the burn and how to manage the case, either going to the doctor or just to manage it as an emergency and then going to a specialized person to deal with it, is a mandatory for all of us.
This is one of the most dangerous causes of burn, because I'm not only exposed to the heat, I'm exposed to smokes. These smokes may aid to the injury of the skin.
Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah.
Tawfiq, thank you for staying tuned to Let's Talk. You guys, we're talking about drugs and why it's not cool and not good to use and sell drugs. And we're going to be sharing some personal stories about people that we know that use drugs and what ended up or sold them and where they ended up, in prison, in jail, or just in a catastrophic situation. I'm joined by the founder of a famous YouTube channel, well known, A Roadside to Islam, Brother Abu Bakr Islam, as well as Brother Abdul Rahim Hadi from the United States, a student here in Egypt. We have some comments from the studio audience, but why we and we also have some Facebook comments. Why we get those Facebook comments on the screen, I'm going to go to the studio audience and have him give us his comment. Go ahead, brother.
I see when you do drugs, you don't see the way of hell you will get. You lose your health because the drugs destroy the cells of brain.
Yes, of course.
And you lose yourself. I know someone from our state. He do drugs, and from 6 months of the do drugs, he lose his job. And 1 year he lose his wife and children, divorce, and someday we hear he tried to kill someone to steal his money to buy the drugs, and now he is prison. You lose your health, you lose your everything, and now you still, some boys, I see them, they told me when I drink alcohols or do drugs, I seem cooler than everything.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's very strange. Let's go to the Facebook. You guys, every episode we put a Facebook comment. We want you guys to support and like and share our Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/HudaTV. Brothers Abu Bakr, Brother Ibrahim. We have 87,000 likes on Facebook only. We should have a lot more because we're a TV channel, so where are the viewers? But in any event, let's take a look at these Facebook comments. It said, the question was, Abu Bakr, Brother Ibrahim, it said, do you think drugs are a big problem for Muslim youth today? Please share your thoughts. The first comment from Faiz Azam, who says, taking drugs is a problem, but the biggest problem is not waking up for Fajr prayer. Okay, great insight there. Abdullah Jude says, drugs, fornication, all these things are making their way into daily life now. When I see Muslims like that, it hurts me. But all we can do is make supplication for them and ask Allah Ta'ala to open their hearts and their ears and to advise them. Great comment. Good. Okay. Huda Al-Qala says, I don't think that drugs are the problem. They're just a symptom. I mean, perhaps she's talking about maybe if you have an emotional problem beforehand, then you use drugs to fill that void. But for many people like us, man, we became Muslim and Islam filled that void for us. Sister Robin Burgess, who's a frequent poster, says, sadly, not even the Muslim capital youth are immune to the temptation of escapism through mind alteration, even if for a few hours. In other words, she's saying people take drugs to quote-unquote try to escape from their reality, right? But this is part of how those now adults are struggling with their drugs problems because they begin to quote-unquote just try drugs in their youth. Of course, you try it in your youth, it becomes a major problem in your adulthood. We have Kami Hassan, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And we have many, many more comments, inshallah. Of course, we have comment, perhaps we'll read those later in the program, inshallah. Thank you guys for posting on those Facebook as well. Brother Abu Bakr, how many youth do that? How many people do that? They want to escape for an hour or two. They want to go to the nightclub, have a couple drinks, because they want to escape from their reality in the morning. But maybe we can remind them, they wake up hungover in the same reality or even worse. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, in regards to that, as a Muslim, it's completely different. We can't compare our situation in regards to non-Muslims because they haven't got something to turn to. And like I can use myself for example. Before, when you take drugs and you drink and whatnot, it's a way to escape your problems. But in reality, we know as Muslims that this is not going to help you whatsoever, because you wake up in the morning, like you said, and your problems ain't gone anywhere. But it's a good tool and a good way for the shaitan to make you feel like you need to indulge in these kind of things so your problems will kind of disappear. But as we know as Muslims with proper aql, that we know that nothing ain't going to change in regards to taking drugs and whatnot. Your problems are still going to be there in the morning.
And worse even.
Even worse,
Yeah, great. The Muslim youth has no excuse. The non-Muslim youth, brother, like we said, he doesn't have anything to turn to, so perhaps we can say he doesn't have the guidance of Islam, so he made this mistake. You know, it's different from, so excellent point. But how many youth do they do that? They get drunk because they think they're going to escape from reality, but in the end they wake up in worse reality than before they started drinking, right?
Yeah, you see a lot of youth do that, you know, like they may say, you know, I'm stressed, you know, I'm gonna roll up right now, or, you know, youth and adults, you know, they're stressed, you know, they're having problems at work, they head straight to the bar, they're having problems with their family, they go straight to the bar, you know, to drink away their problems, when in reality all it does is make it worse, you know, drinking, you know, smoking, all it does is just, it messes with your emotions. Right. You know, it doesn't really make the problems go away, you know. All it does, yeah, go ahead.
And even in regards to women and stuff like that, you know, there's a lot of women, they take drugs and whatnot, wake up in the morning and don't know what happened to them in the night. A lot of women have been raped and sexually abused and whatnot via taking drugs. So we have to see there's a lot of evil effects of taking drugs, and there's plenty of examples that we can go through where we can show the evil effects of this.
And we're talking, exactly, we call it DUI in California. How many grown men are in jail in America because they got 2-3 DUIs, now they're crying in the courtroom, they have to go to rehab, their wives are divorcing them. I mean, it's a huge...
It's a big problem.
Yeah,
it's a big problem.
It's not just something small, it's definitely a huge problem. These problems, obviously, you start as a youth taking drugs, and you end up, you know, in a bad situation. If I could share one story, I knew a girl when we were in high school, before Muslim. She was like the most beautiful girl in the school, everybody wanted her, she was so nice and pretty, blah, blah, blah. You know how it is back then in the States. We weren't Muslims at that time, okay? That's how we were thinking. She got into a drug called crystal methamphetamine. It's very popular in the States. It's a very terrible drug. It's worse than cocaine and crack cocaine, synthetic drug, okay? They call it crystal meth. In a matter of 6 months, she was not just a physical disaster, she became very skinny. She had open sores all over her body. In addition to that, she began to have psychological problems, and everybody would say, do you remember so-and-so? Remember so-and-so? And it was after like 6 months of using this drug, crystal meth. So I want to let the people hear that story, especially the young girls out there who are also pressured to take drugs, aren't they? We're talking about the men. What about the young girls? Aren't they pressured, Abu Bakr, to look pretty, to what society deems as pretty, to take drugs, to be cool, to have sex before marriage? The women also have a great challenge, don't they?
Of course, because just like we say with the music videos, it plays effects on the men, it plays effects on the women, because there's also women in the videos. There's also portraying a certain way and looking a certain way. And like we see even today, look at, for example, pictures, photos. We've got Photoshop, all these things. Half of these people that we see on TV don't actually look like that in real life. So when these young girls grow up and they see all these women, they feel automatically, I'm ugly, I'm this and that. And they don't realize majority of the people that they look up to don't really look like that in real life. So the same pressures that the men are going through in society, the women are going through the exact same thing.
I think even more, I think the women are even under more pressure in the West, because they're identified as being Muslim by their hijab, and they feel pressure to take it off and to try to look pretty and to, may Allah help them and definitely support them. And that's really funny. You know what? Someone told me they saw a picture of Britney Spears or something coming out of a Starbucks that's posted on Facebook. They go, that's Britney Spears?
No.
Because without the makeup and the lights, it looked like a different...
Can't believe it.
They have a lot of magazines like that. It says, you know, it's stars without makeup, and they just look like your most regular person you see in the street.
SubhanAllah, yeah. What about, okay, so let's look at the Muslim youth. They are our audience and our first priority, the Muslim youth. So if a Muslim young man or woman is attempting to take drugs, what does the Muslim have, you know, when he wants to escape from reality? What are some tools that Allah gave us in our religion that we can use to stay away from drugs? What do you guys think?
One of the most important things is the understanding why you're Muslim and understanding your purpose of life. Even in regards to one of the things that you said, someone that you knew that before they had a criminal record and what have you, and then they became Muslim and they find it very hard to get a job. One of the things what personally helped me, because I can share that kind of experience with that person, is that Allah Ta'ala says that 50,000 years before He created the heavens and the earth, He wrote down our risks. So whatever money is ordained for you, that's what you're going to get. And once you got the yaqeen and certainty in your heart that this is from Allah, then it's easier for you to go forward in your life. Now, in regards to the Muslim youth, the first thing they need to do is turn back to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and go back to the basics of Islam, and especially for the born Muslims as well, because you know they grow up on Islam. A lot of the born Muslims, they grow up on Islam, but they don't actually understand Islam. And where I've been doing dawah over the few years, alhamdulillah, one of the most important things we try to advise, especially the born Muslim, go back to the basics, learn Tawheed, learn who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, start praying again, because sometimes we think too far down the line before we go to the basics. Once the basics are gelled inside your heart and you got yaqeen and certainty who Allah ta'ala is, then slowly but surely you can drop out all these things. Because even wallahi, when I first became Muslim, one of the things I used to say to my friend, I don't think I'll be able to stop smoking. How am I going? Like, I've been smoking for years. This is like part of my life. It's routine. Just like I wake up, I have a shower. This is routine for me. But once I started learning who Allah Ta'ala is, learning about the Prophet ﷺ, learning more about my purpose of life, these things were easy for me to drop off. But without that yaqeen, it's like a mission impossible. So the first thing we have to advise the Muslim youth, turn back to Allah. If they don't turn back to Allah, there's no hope.
Yeah, thank you, brother. You know, me too. When I became Muslim, I said, there's a lot of bad things I'm doing, and I can't stop. But after a while, it just kind of dropped away.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
This is
Thank you, brother, for sharing that story. I certainly appreciate it. How about you, brother? I want to ask you this. If a Muslim youth has a desire to do something wrong, perhaps take drugs, as we were speaking about drugs in this episode, what about the adhkar, the supplications, the prayer? Isn't this like a kind of an escape from reality, a connection? Once you establish that connection with your Lord,
when you give up something for the sake of Allah, you know, whether it can be it's a bad thing, you know, that you're addicted to. Whether it's drugs, you know, whether it's women, anything. If you give up something for the sake of Allah, listen, this is, you know, because we're all human, you know, we're naturally indulged to things that are not good, you know. But when we see, you know, we're gonna try to give this up for the sake of Allah, with our intentions being straight, then Allah will replace with something better.
Inshallah,
you know, so if we make the intention to, you know, I do not want to do this drugs, you know, even if we did it in the past, you know, it's really hard for me to stop smoking, you know, it's hard for me to stop doing this or that. Right. If we try to replace it with something good, we just try to stay away from it, you know, you keep it with the salah, you know, you're constantly making dhikr of Allah, you know, you're constantly making dua, oh Allah, keep me away from this. Then inshallah, you know, Allah, He'll, you know, replace that with something that is better.
And that's why it's important, like I said, to go back to the basics, because if you look at the message of the Prophet ﷺ, when he came to his Sahaba, the first thing he taught them was about Tawheed. He didn't tell them about, this is haram, these are the things that you should stay away from. He taught them about who Allah was, what is expected from you as a Muslim, what the reward of worshipping Allah is. And once the people had yaqeen and belief and certainty, when the ayats were revealed for people to stop drinking alcohol, all of the Muslims stopped drinking alcohol because they had the certainty and yaqeen. So the first thing the Muslims need to do, like the brother was saying, turn back to Allah, go back to the basics and work your way up, and inshallah, slowly but surely, most of these things that they're doing, they'll be able to stop, inshallah.
Have you had some positive results working with Muslim youth there in London, where you're from?
Yeah, but loads of positive reports, because you got to understand, we live in a society where people feel like there's no hope. There's no hope. And like what you said in regards to the brother with the criminal record, this is a big fitna, because you can't tell someone, you know, stop selling drugs, stop doing haram, stop doing this. What have you got to them? What have you got in replace for that? Can you give them a job? Can you help them get money? This is difficult. This is difficult, and this is something that majority of the Muslims can't supply to the youth. But one thing we can tell them is that, look, turn back to Allah, go back to your basics, learn your Lord. And once you've got yaqeen, once you've got certainty in your heart, these things are mine. And like I said, any Muslim who knows that Allah Ta'ala says 50,000 years before He created the heavens and the earth, your risk has been written. If you believe this, then after that, money is not a big thing to you. But you have to have that yaqeen, and the only way you're going to get that yaqeen is going back to the basics and working your way up.
Yeah, thank you. And also, my friend who I was speaking about, he was a rap musician, and he had got some trouble. He had like a felony gun charge, and then he learned about Islam, and it changed his life in a real positive way. But of course, the society doesn't support you when you become Muslim. So what are you going to tell your parole officer? That's the last thing he wants to hear from you, right? So then he's stuck. He can't do this bad stuff anymore, because also he really changed. He was a wonderful brother, but now the society isn't helping him go forward. So it's almost like they push you back into that. The bad way. But the prayer itself, brother Abu Bakr, brother Abdul Halim, how many times have you guys been tempted with something, and you maybe right when you became Muslim, I want to do this again, I want to do that again, nobody will know, and you turn to the salah, or you make dua, or you make dhikr, and you realize, and it keeps you away from that. Has that happened to you?
Well, you see prayer 5 times a day. There's so much wisdom in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put out these salah in different times, because there's so many times before when I first became Muslim, I had crazy thoughts in my mind. Maybe I was on the way to do something, and something diverted me, and I went and prayed, and after the salah, I'm back at ease again. And another thing as well, even with Yawm al-Jummah, wallahi, if we didn't have Jummah, majority, there will be, I think half of the Muslims wouldn't even be Muslim today.
Why do you say that?
Because it's like, no matter what, even a lot of people who don't pray, they seem to go Jummah. And that one Imam could give you one message what could change your life. That Friday Jummah is so important for the Muslim, because like I said, majority of the Muslims don't pray. And that's the honest truth. Majority of the Muslims don't pray. But majority of the Muslims, alhamdulillah, they go to Jummah. And it could just be that one day that Imam gives you one message, what turns your heart, and it makes you turn back to Allah.
Yeah, that's great, because even in Egypt, we see the masjids are full on Friday. So alhamdulillah, they may not pray every time, but every day, which they should, but they still have the faith in their heart. They're not going to leave the Jummah, inshallah. Like you said, maybe they can get that message. And go ahead.
I know a friend of mine. He lives in Egypt now. He's from London, actually, and he became Muslim about 3 years ago. And he was explaining to me, how, before Islam, he was indulged in everything, he did. He was a womanizer, he did, he smoked a lot, but when he became Muslim, he always told himself in the beginning, I don't know how I'm going to, he can maybe drop everything, but he doesn't know how, like he said, he doesn't know how he's going to be able to stop smoking. So one of the things that he told me helped him, besides, after, he learned more about Islam, the constant dua that he made, he said after a while he noticed that it started to become a little easier for him to, to get away from it. But then one of the things he made, one of the choices he made was he had to change his whole situation because he became Muslim, but he was still inside the same environment that he was in before Islam. Which he was like, that was still, it was still bringing hardship on him. So what he was able to do was move to Egypt.
I see what you're saying. You have to change your environment completely because there's no way a young person or anybody can stop doing drugs if your best friend next to you is smoking weed or doing whatever he's doing. It becomes impossible. Brother Abdul Rahim, I certainly thank you for being on Let's Talk with us. We're going to replace you with another Abdul Rahim. It's like two Abdul Rahims in one episode. It's like two for the price of one.
Nice.
But we're going to bring Sheikh Abdul Rahim McCarthy to give us a little bit more hadith and ayat and Islamic perspective, inshallah. And thank you, brother, for giving us a youth perspective.
No problem.
I certainly appreciate your time. Brother Abu Bakr, you stay with us. We're going to have another segment coming up, more about drugs and their negative effects on the youth, right here on Let's Talk. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short break.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala.
I really like the example he gives in that clip about the guy stuck in traffic. He thinks that it's just, it takes it personal, which brings us to the point that a pessimist is very subjective when it comes to negative things that happens in his life.
But for example, if you are talking to me about doing something good in life and you are on the bed of death, that you want to do something for your ummah. This is why we did this program, to make you get your achievable goals before you reach the moment that you will not be able to achieve anything.
SubhanAllah, if I may add.
If I have a positive attitude, and if I have courage, why it doesn't appear in all the problems that I face? Why it doesn't appear in all what I do in my life? Actually, because you are not responsible enough to control your mindset.
I was reading a study on New York government. They wanted to improve the crime rate. They wanted to lower the crime rate, ultimately. And they found that in the subways, there was a lot of graffiti, a lot of trash. And just by doing a little thing, like removing the trash and removing the graffiti and making a more clean environment, the crime rate actually lowered. So this shows the power that how little things can really make a big difference.
Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah.
Welcome back to Let's Talk. We're still talking about drugs and what a fitna they are in facing the Muslim youth today. We're joined by Abu Bakr Islam, the founder of the YouTube channel Roadside to Islam. Check it out if you haven't. Check out those videos. They are certainly beneficial. And we're also joined by the host of Missing Ingredients, which you will see, inshallah, on 100 TV. You've seen him on Viewers Pulse before, inshallah, as well, on Ramadan's Pulse as well. I'm talking about the Imam of the Tiffany Mosque, located in the UAE, as well as in the Manar Quran Center, and Islamic Studies teacher, a prominent American revert to Islam, Sheikh Abdul Rahim McCarthy. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers. Thank you so much for joining us, and you guys in the studio audience, thank you so much for being here for this third episode. Brother Abu Bakr and I were talking about drugs, their negative effects on the youth. We talked about why people take them, why people sell them. What advice can we give to the Muslim youth to stay away from drugs?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam wa rasulillah. We can see in general, and I think a lot of the times what's missing is the proper Islamic upbringing. When somebody is brought up the proper Islamic upbringing according to the Quran and Sunnah, you'll see that the Prophet ﷺ, when we look at, in Islam, we have the alcohol, which is basically from the same thing,
right.
the same source of evil, obviously, it's a form of drug. Actually, it's something interesting when it comes to alcohol, that the World Health Organization said that alcohol actually kills more people a year than AIDS and war put together. But people out nowadays look at like alcohol like it's no big thing. So it could actually be more dangerous than a lot of drugs. But even unfortunately, the Muslims in a lot of Muslim countries, like it's no big deal for them to serve alcohol now. The point is that when you look into the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you look into the ayat in the Quran, you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet ﷺ, they trained the Muslims to stay away from the alcohol and the dangers of the alcohol. So when this is brought up into somebody, and he knows that drugs are the same thing, or drugs even worse, and depending on the type of drug, can actually be much worse than alcohol.
Yeah, sure.
And this is obviously, when something halal, haram, the issue when you look at alcohol, for example, it has the la'an, the curse. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the one who drinks the alcohol is cursed. The one who drinks it in the dunya won't drink it in the hereafter. So all of these type of things, when you go to drugs, even worse than this. And when a person hears things like this, the true Muslim, this no doubt it's going to help him stay firm, to stay away from things. There's going to be a shield for him from the beginning.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Excellent point. Thank you, Sheikh. I certainly appreciate it. Brother Abu Bakr, the Sheikh mentioned alcohol. This is also a huge way that the shaitan destroys the Muslim youth, and I'm sure in London, where you're from, you've seen the same thing, alcohol affecting the youth there, haven't you?
Yeah, like what the Sheikh was saying, especially with the upbringing of the Muslims. Like I said, majority of the Muslims need to go back to the basics. Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of born Muslims in our society, but majority of the Muslims do not understand the deen. That's why the first advice we always advise the Muslims is that go back to the basics, learn Tawheed, learn who Allah Ta'ala is, learn about the Prophet ﷺ, and then work your way up. Because without this understanding, for you to stay away from this haram, it's very difficult. Now, in regards to alcohol and what have you, in the society we're living in today, put aside beer, we're talking about champagne and stuff like that. Now, this is something that's glamorized in our society. Yeah. People who buy champagne, Cristal, all these kind of stuff. People look up to people like this. Yeah. So majority of the young people of today want to have money to buy this kind of stuff, to go to nightclubs and show off, because this is something that's glamorized. This is something that's looked at as cool. But for the Muslims that we're trying to focus on in particular is like what the Sheikh was saying, is the upbringing and not understanding the deen. And without understanding the deen, it's virtually impossible for you to stay away from this haram.
Yeah, excellent point. Without the understanding of the deen, it is virtually impossible, it would seem. Sheikh Abdul Rahim, what about a Muslim youth who's watching now, who perhaps he's fallen into these bad behaviors, perhaps he is using drugs and drinking alcohol, and he says, he or she says, I've done so much harm now, Allah is not going to accept my forgiveness. I don't know how to turn back to Allah. Can we give this person some positive words of encouragement to stop doing what they're doing and turn back to the deen?
From the beauty of the Quran, from the beauty of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He tells, لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله, don't despair from the mercy of Allah. إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا. Verily Allah, He forgives all of the sins. All of the sins. And you can't translate this ayah 100% if you don't understand the Arabic language. It has a lot of strength in it. Verily Allah, He forgives all of the sins, جميعا. All of the sins, no matter what they are. Okay. So the door is always open. Never despair from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what I will advise myself and my brothers with, one of the key things that helps keep us strong from not falling into the traps of shaitan is keeping good company. And I always mention this, that whenever I give a lot of lectures, which are like, tarbiyah type lectures, how to train ourselves as Muslims, how to stay steadfast on the deen and what have you. There's no lecture that I give except for keeping good company is something that keeps you on the straight path, and keeping bad company is what takes you off the straight path. Always it comes in lecture. It has to come. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah wa kunu ma'a sadiqeen. O you who believe, fear Allah and be with the truthful. The man in the story who killed 99 people, that's reflected a little bit in this hadith. When he wanted to make tawbah, he's almost up to triple digits. He's killed 99. He's got one to go. He's like, okay, now I need to start thinking about getting down some tawbah now, because 100, that's kind of steep. 99, okay. So when they told him go to the abid, the worshipper, who didn't know anything about Islam, he was pious and worshiping, he didn't have knowledge. He said, there's no tawbah for you. So he got upset and took him out, made him number 100. Right? So then, but he still felt inside, this is bad now. I've killed 100 people. I got to get down some tawbah. I got to stop, right? So he comes and he goes to the scholar. And the scholar obviously said, of course, because like the ayah I just told you, he knows this. All the sins we forgive, of course. He said, what comes between you and making tawbah? He said, but, this is what I want to point out. He said, إِنَّكَ بِأَرْضِ سُوءٍ. He said, very, you're in an evil land, and you mean with evil people. He said to go into such and such a land with such and such a people because they are pious and they're worshiping Allah and worship Allah with Him. So even if you can't, like I say, you have to leave, for example, if you're in London or you're in America or wherever, you have to actually leave this society because it might not be possible. Some people say, oh, this is better, make hijrah. But it's not always possible for everybody. So if you're in your society, put yourself with a good group of brothers, a good group of sisters for the sisters, and a good pious Muslims who are going to help you, who are going to remind you. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-mar'u ala dini khalili, that the person's on the religion of his friend. Not just, he didn't say, on what his friend, he said the religion of his friend, to show you how effective the friend can be on you.
SubhanAllah. Brother Abu Bakr, did you experience that too once you became Muslim? You still had your friends around you and you had to find a way to kind of get away from them and establish new company?
Well, what was pretty crazy when I first became Muslim, some of my friends prior, they became Muslim before me.
Oh, great.
When they first became Muslim, it was something really strange to me because I don't recall ever seeing a Muslim, even recognizing a Muslim on the street, because to me Islam was like maybe an Asian or Arab way of life. So when they first became Muslim, obviously I saw the way they changed, etc. And obviously it kind of inspired me to look into Islam. Anyway, cut a long story short, when I became Muslim, I knew in myself that I had to cut off my old friends because it was going to be very difficult for me to change. Now, I chose the people who became Muslim before me to hang around with them, and alhamdulillah, they inspired me to start praying 5 times a day. And wallahi, I remember my first Ramadan, there's one brother in particular, I stayed with him for the whole Ramadan because I didn't know how to pray or anything, and his wife would cook for me and whatnot, and this is one of the things what helped me. And like what the Sheikh said, it's important about the companions. This is very, 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 very important, because if you're around good people, it's hard for you to be bad. And if you're around bad people, it's hard for you to be good. Exactly. So it's important for us to take good people to be around, to inspire us to, inshallah ta'ala, so we can go in the right direction.
Thank you so much, guys. I certainly appreciate it. In the last ayah of Surah An-Nas, when Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Min al-Jannati wa nas, Sheikh, can we say the shaitan works through the jinn in the people? So sometimes if you have a bad friend, it's like shaitan is manipulating you through that bad friend, right?
But exactly, and if you look at the fact how many times, and we'll let the viewers go home and reflect on this. We're not going to give the answer.
Okay.
We like to have them, reflect like the missing ingredients. We send them home and give them homework assignments. What happens here is you need to reflect how many times do you say Surah An-Nas when you seek this refuge? How many times a day? Look throughout the Sunnah when the Prophet ﷺ prescribed it, before sleeping, after the prayers, and add them up. How many times you say it a day? And the last ayah, as you mentioned, it's talking about the danger of the shayateen from the jinn and the ins, from all types of shayateen.
Right.
Because these are the soldiers of the shaitan who are calling you to this evil. Now, when you talk about being inspired by the champagne and things like this, even the weed.
Yeah.
Why do so many Muslims smoke weed? Because you have the rappers and you have these people on their videos, they have the smoke coming out and it looks so cool, so glamorous, and the eyes always down like this, and he's like, you know what I'm saying?
Got the girl next to him.
So it's like, oh, this is it, and inspire them. So these are the shayateen of the ins, the human shayateen, the human devils who are calling the people this. Because they're the ones who are inspiring to this. Ask any youth why he started smoking weed. I was going to be his friends around him, but these people, these rappers or these
rock stars
or whatever, they're the ones who had the effect on them.
Yeah, of course. So what is the weapon then of the believer? Are we helpless? What can a Muslim do when he sees all these temptations in front of him? What are some things he can do to protect himself from doing these things?
Well, that's very deep. I mean, obviously, the things that keep you steadfast on the religion, it's very deep. We actually went through here on Huda TV on book review. Went through a nice book by Sheikh Salih al-Munajjid, 15 points that will help you stay steadfast upon the religion. And I discussed them with our brother Muhammad Hamza, and so that the viewers, inshallah, maybe can check that out, inshallah. But the point is there's so many things that you need. Remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, living with the Quran, being with the pious, it comes up all the time again. Right. And striving. We have to know that we're going to strive. It's not going to be difficult. We have to remind ourselves that we're here to be tested. And these are from the temptations. We have to remind ourselves of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the Jannah was surrounded by that which is difficulties. And the hellfire was surrounded by the lust and the desires. So we're here to be tested. This is the reality. And we know this. And the thing is, the Muslim, when he knows this, he knows the reason why he's here. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We're here we have not created the jinn and ins except to worship me. We're here to worship Allah. And we know the other reason we're created, لِنَبْلُوكُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, to test them, to see which one of them is best in deeds.
SubhanAllah. And I would say, after accepting Islam, I had many bad habits myself, but Islam filled that void in my life, and I no longer had a need to participate in those things, which is an amazing thing. And I think, in the United States, a lot of people, when you get caught with a DUI and you get caught driving drunk and all this, they encourage you to go to AA. And this is an organization that supposedly helps you quit drinking, okay? But I tell them, we're Muslims. We have everything we need. we don't need an AA. We have Islam that teaches us all these wonderful principles. What do you think, Sheikh?
Well, it's true. And in a way it's true. But we need, obviously, when you're in the masjid, that's when you need to find that. And we're talking about even in the break now, sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of the masajid in the West, we're not finding what we need for the youth. Right. And that's why our youth are drifting out. And alhamdulillah, a lot of our older brothers, our elders, are starting to realize this problem. Right. And look at the second and third generation, how they're drifting away. They're trying to get more involved, but they haven't been able to get out of their old customs that they brought from the east to the west. Yeah, and these masajid. And we have to realize, even when you look at the masjid in the time of the Prophet, it wasn't just a place for worship. No. It was a place, a community center where they would come together. Even sometimes when they were wrestling and things like that, in the masjid. It's no big. Now,
be quiet. That's the library.
Yeah, but it's not what a masjid is for. A masjid needs to be a community center. Right. The people need to find a place like that where they can go. People want to. The way people are now, they want to have a place where they can go chill out, hang out with the brothers, and have fun. Right. And that's what we need to make these places. So you have a place to turn to, and you have people to turn to.
Great point, Sheikh Abdul Rahim. Brother, in London where you are, would you say how many youth have fallen into drugs and bad behavior because the mosques have failed, in a sense, to create a community, like an inclusive community, not just an Asian masjid or an Arab masjid, but to create a masjid that has an inclusive kind of effort and outreach for the youth?
Me personally, I've always said that since I've become Muslim, I feel like the masjids don't do enough. And even myself, when I first became Muslim, the way I used to dress, when I used to walk in majority of masjids, the way people used to look at me, I could not. I used to hate going to the masjid. And yeah, I'll be honest. The way I was dressed and the way I looked was inappropriate. But at the same time, if people don't welcome me into the religion and show me the right way, how am I supposed to change? Now, if we look at the majority of the masjids, especially in London and what have you, when you go in there, everyone has to be quiet. It's like what the Sheikh was saying, it's not like, it should be a bit more like a community centre. Don't get me wrong, the masjid has rights and we should observe the rights of the masjid. Sure. But it shouldn't be somewhere where we feel like I can't go and meet a couple brothers and sit and relax, just talk about a few things, etc. And that's one of the biggest problems I feel like for the Muslim youth, because they have nowhere to go. And another problem that we have in our society now as well, especially in UK in particular, is that majority of the youth centres, community centres, they're closing because of funding and what have you. So now a majority of the youth are on the street. Now if the Muslim youth don't have somewhere to go, they're going to end up hanging on the street and ending up in bad company. So like I said, always since I've been Muslim, I put a lot of blame on the masjids, because I feel like they're not doing enough to attract the youth in there and make them feel comfortable and be a place where they can come and have someone to talk to, because we need advice. Yeah, of course. We need advice. We live in a society, as soon as we step out of the masjid, we're seeing nothing but haram. Yeah. So we need somewhere where we can go and kind of drown our sorrows, so to speak, and have somewhere where there's people of knowledge who can give us advice and direct us in the right way.
Sort of halal social activity.
This is it.
It's very simple, yeah.
And the Sahaba, by the way, they used to gather in the masjid and they would talk about their worldly affairs. Sometimes they'd even talk about their lives before Islam, and as a reminder to keep them firm and stuff like that. Okay. So it was a social place as well.
Unfortunately, we're out of time for this episode. If you guys wanted to share anything before we close the episode, feel free to do so. Okay, thank you so much. I certainly appreciate it. I hope to have you guys back soon for another episode. Inshallah, you guys in the studio audience, thank you for being with us for this episode. And you guys, I certainly hope this episode benefited you, and stay away from drugs and encourage your friends to do the same. Until next time, I leave you in the care of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, Allah. I'm calling your name, Allah. I call you, I need you, Allahu Akbar, Allah. Your mercy is great.